Never underestimate the quiet ones. Sometimes, they're the storm justice sends. That night inside Willow Creek Diner, one cruel act would awaken a man the world thought they already knew. If you believe everyone deserves respect, hit subscribe now, because this story will remind you why dignity still matters. Rain tapped gently against the windows of Willow Creek Diner, wrapping the place in a soft hum of warmth and nostalgia. Inside, 61-year-old Eleanor Vance moved gracefully from table to table, a woman whose kindness was worn but never broken. Then came the sound that split the night apart, a slap, sharp, sudden, unforgivable. Every head turned. Eleanor stood frozen, her palm to her cheek, eyes wide in disbelief. Across from her, a man in an expensive gray suit sneered, brushing his hand as if she were dirt on his sleeve. At the far corner sat a man in a hoodie, quiet, still. The world knew him as John Cena, but tonight he was just John, a traveler chasing a memory of his mother, who once worked in a diner just like this. The smell of coffee and rain mixed with tension. John watched, jaw tightening, every word echoing with ghosts from his childhood nights when his mother came home with fake smiles and tired eyes after being humiliated by men like this. Eleanor stammered, I'm sorry, sir. It was an accident. But the man scoffed. You people always have excuses. Maybe you're too old for this job. Her lips trembled. The humiliation in her eyes was something John had seen before, and something he promised himself never to ignore again. He set his mug down. The small clink echoed through the silent diner like a war drum. No one realized it yet, but justice had just stood up. The diner was calm again, though a thin tension still hung in the air. Eleanor moved quietly between booths, a steaming pot of coffee in her hand. She had served this way for decades, steady, polite, invisible. At the far end sat Mr. Davies, absorbed in his phone, briefcase carelessly sprawled beside his seat. Its handle stretched into the aisle like a trap she didn't see coming. As she stepped forward, her shoe caught it, a stumble small, almost graceful. But the pot jerked, and scalding coffee cascaded across the table. It drenched his papers, his phone, and the perfect press of his gray trousers. The entire diner went still. Then came the explosion. Are you kidding me? He roared, springing to his feet. You ruined a $2,000 suit. What's wrong with you? Eleanor froze, color draining from her face. I'm so sorry, sir. Your briefcase was... Don't touch me. He snapped, knocking her reaching hand aside. You people don't belong here. Maybe it's time you stayed home before you hurt someone else. The words sliced deeper than any burn. Her lips parted, but no sound came. From the corner booth, John Cena watched, his hand tightened around his cup until porcelain creaked. Every insult replayed memories he'd buried the same tone men once used on his mother. Davies threw down a napkin, voice rising again. You should be fired. That was when John set his cup down. The clink sounded like thunder in the silence. He stood calm but unmovable and said evenly, That's enough. Davies turned, disbelief flickering. Excuse me. John's eyes were steady, voice quiet but final. You've done enough damage. Leave her alone. The diner held its breath. For the first time that night, power shifted from the man with the suit to the man who finally stood up. The air inside the diner felt heavy, every sound swallowed by tension. Mr. Davies' jaw twitched, humiliation darkened his face. He stepped closer to Eleanor, voice low and poisonous. You people never learn, he hissed. You ruin my night and then act like the victim. Eleanor backed away, palms raised. Please, sir, I didn't mean. The crack came without warning. A single, violent sound that froze the world. Her head snapped sideways, her body catching the counter for balance. Gasps rippled through the diner. Even the rain seemed to stop and listen. For a heartbeat, she stayed still, eyes wide, breath caught, cheek burning red. Then the tears came quiet, ashamed, unstoppable. 40 years of patience had never prepared her for this. Davies straightened his tie like nothing happened. That's what happens when people forget their place. He tossed a crumpled $5 onto the table. Lesson learned. Every soul in the diner stared, paralyzed by disbelief. The elderly couple clutched hands. The trucker's fists clenched on his table. But only one man moved. In the corner booth, John Cena rose slowly. No rush, no anger, just an unshakable calm that drew every eye. The scrape of his chair sounded like thunder. He walked forward until his shadow covered Davies. "Excuse me," he said quietly. "You need to leave." Davies scoffed, forcing a laugh. "What are you, the morality police? Sit down before I—" John's eyes lifted. One look silenced him. "You crossed a line." The words were soft, but they carried the weight of an entire lifetime. Eleanor blinked through tears. For the first time that night, she saw someone standing for her instead of against her. Davies smirked, trying to recover. "Buddy, you don't know who you're talking to." John took one more step forward. "Maybe not," he said. "But you're about to find out who I am." The diner held its breath again. The storm outside was nothing compared to the one now standing inside. No one in the diner moved. The tension was alive, buzzing through the lights, through every shallow breath. John Cena stood tall, calm as a storm about to break. "Excuse me," he said again, his tone firm but controlled. "I think you need to leave." Davies blinked, taken aback, then forced a laugh. "Leave? Because some old waitress spilled my coffee?" "I don't think so." John didn't blink. "You didn't just yell at her. You hit her. That's assault." Davies snorted. "Assault? It was a slap. Maybe she needed one." People these days forget respect. From behind the counter, Eleanor whispered, "Please, it's fine. Just let him go." But John shook his head gently. "No, ma'am, it's not fine." The room held its breath. Rain pounded harder against the glass. Every pair of eyes fixed on the man in the hoodie whose calm felt more dangerous than rage. Davies squared his shoulders, stepping forward. "You have no idea who you're talking to. I could buy this whole place." John's reply was soft, measured, funny. "So could I." He reached into his jacket, pulled out a sleek black card, and placed it on the counter. The motion was small, but the silence afterward felt enormous. Davies frowned, glancing down at the card. Then his smirk faltered. The name printed on it was simple but unmistakable. John Cena, followed by the name of the corporation that owned hundreds of restaurants, just like this one. The color drained from Davies' face. He looked up, searching for any hint of mercy, but found none. John stepped closer, his voice low but unshakable. "You didn't just insult a woman tonight. You insulted one of my people." Gasps rippled through the diner. The trucker whispered under his breath, "No way." Eleanor stared, stunned, realizing who had been sitting quietly in her section all evening. Davies stammered, "Look, I didn't know." John cut him off gently. "Now you do." He pointed toward the door. "Leave." And with that single word, the balance of power shifted completely. The bully was no longer the biggest man in the room. For a moment, no one breathed. Mr. Davies stared at the black business card on the counter, confusion turning slowly into horror. John Cena, the name printed in bold, carried weight far beyond the diner's walls. The quiet man in the hoodie wasn't a bystander. He was the owner, the diner, the chain, the standard of respect it was meant to stand for. All of it traced back to him. Davies stammered, "You can't be serious. This is some kind of joke." But John's calm voice stopped him cold. "No joke. You just assaulted one of my employees." The words hit harder than any punch. Gasps rippled through the diner. The trucker by the door whispered, "Holy hell." Eleanor stood motionless, her mind struggling to connect the dots. The stranger who'd defended her was her boss. Davies' bravado crumbled. He lifted trembling hands. "Look, I overreacted. It was an accident. I'll pay for her time, her medical bills, just please. Don't make this public. I have a reputation." John stepped closer, his voice low but unyielding. "The damage you did tonight can't be fixed with a check. You didn't just spill coffee, you spilled your character." Davies swallowed hard. "I said I'm sorry." "No," John said. "You said you were important. That's not the same thing." He turned, opened the diner door. Rain spilled in, cool and cleansing. "You're finished here, and in every restaurant I own. Leave." For once, Davies didn't argue. He gathered his soaked briefcase and stumbled into the storm, his shadow swallowed by the rain. The door shut softly behind him. Silence returned, not from fear, but from relief. John looked around the room. Faces that a moment ago had been frozen in shock now glowed with a quiet respect. His gaze landed on Eleanor. She was still shaking, eyes wet, hand on her cheek. "Are you all right?" he asked. Her voice cracked as she nodded. "I am now." And for the first time since the slap, the diner felt safe again, because kindness had finally fought back. Rain whispered against the windows, a softer echo after the storm. The diner was nearly empty now, just John Cena and Eleanor Vance, surrounded by half-cleaned tables and the quiet hum of the coffee machine. Eleanor stood behind the counter, rubbing her hands together. Her cheek still burned, but the deeper wound was invisible. Her voice trembled as she said, "I've worked 40 years in places like this. People yell, throw tantrums, act like we're furniture. You learn to stay quiet, to smile no matter what." John leaned on the counter, listening. "No one deserves to be treated that way," he said softly. She gave a tired smile. "That's kind of you to say, sir. But it's how this job works. The customer's always right, even when they're cruel." Her words hit him harder than she knew. He'd built this business from small diners, like this one meant, to be safe places, warm and human. But now he realized something bitter. Somewhere along the line, the system he created had forgotten its soul. He stared at his reflection in the coffee pot, voice low. "I built these diners because I wanted to honor my mother. She worked jobs like this. She taught me that respect matters more than money. But I let the business become about profit, not people." Eleanor looked up gently. "You can't fix the world, Mr. Cena. People are who they are." He shook his head. "No, they're who we allow them to be." The conviction in his tone made her pause. For a long moment, neither spoke. Only the steady hum of the lights filled the air. Finally, she said quietly, "You'll go back to your office tomorrow. Someone will write a memo. Nothing will change." John smiled faintly, but there was something fierce behind it. "You're wrong. I'm done sending memos. I'm going to make this real." Eleanor's tired eyes searched his face for doubt, but found none. And in that look, a spark of hope flickered, small, cautious, but alive. Outside, the storm eased. Inside, something far greater was beginning. The diner lights dimmed, and the last echo of rain faded into silence. Eleanor wiped the counter one final time, unaware that John Cena was still there watching quietly, his mind already rebuilding the future. Finally, he said, "Eleanor, you were right. Talking changes nothing. So, let's do something." She looked up, confused. "Do what?" He smiled faintly. "I'm creating a new position in my company, head of employee dignity. It reports directly to me." She blinked. "I don't understand." "It means," he continued, "you'll visit every restaurant we own. You'll meet the staff, listen to them, teach our managers what respect really means. No fake training videos, real stories, your stories." Eleanor froze, speechless. "Me? I'm just a waitress." "No," John said softly. "You're the reason people come back. You're the reminder of what this place is supposed to be." Tears filled her eyes this time, not from pain, but from worth rediscovered. He offered his hand. Better pay, full benefits, and the power to make sure no one feels invisible again. "Deal." She hesitated only a moment before shaking his hand. "Deal." The camera fades to a bright, modern conference room. A dozen new managers sit around a table, taking notes. At the front stands Eleanor Vance, confident.com, radiant in a navy suit. Her silver hair gleams under the lights. When an employee makes a mistake, she tells them, "Don't ask, 'What did you do wrong?' Ask, 'Are you okay?' Because people who feel seen will always give their best." The room is silent. Every word lands with quiet power. At the back, unseen by most, John Cena watches with pride. After the session, she joins him. "You know," she says with a soft laugh, "for 40 years I thought my job was to serve food. Turns out, I was just collecting stories." John nods. And thank you for teaching me how to serve people again." She smiles. Guess we both learned the same lesson. A single act of cruelty can leave a deep scar, but one act of courage can heal far more than a wound. True power, I said, T about wealth, or myth, S about remembering the dignity in every human being. Respect, kindness, courage. That's how real change begins.